Congregation Kol Ami, we're delighted you're able to be with us as we celebrate here in the sanctuary, in the Circle of Light. As always, we have our 10-person in-person minyan, and we include you in our congregation. We welcome you. We're going to start, as we always do, with good and blessing. We want to hear about what's happening to you, what's happening in our community, that we can stay connected at a time when it's so easy to lose touch with one another. So I'm going to begin by announcing a few good and blessings that are happening in and around the congregation this week. And if you have one to add, just put it on chat line and we'll include it in our celebrations. All right, first of all, I have all the wonderful people here who are part of our Minyan and guest group tonight. We have Joanne Barnes and Carol Rogers, Sampson, who is manning our production and live streaming tonight, as well as Casey Flansbaum. I can say that, and I have in the past. And she is serving as able assistant. Don and Helena Dawsey, Harold and Adrian Harris, and Steve and Adam Ducar, and our Vice President of Fundraising, Michelle Jim. We have some birthdays this week. Joe Bornstein has his birthday. I've had my birthday. Abraham Elhaney has had his birthday, and we especially want to call out Maya Enriquez, and we also want to think of Susan Lee. Happy birthday to all of you. And two other people present, Don and Helena Dawsey, are celebrating their anniversary. Which anniversary is that? 47 years. In 3 years, we'll have the special 50th anniversary blowout. Okay, that's amazing. That's amazing. So, anybody in the room have a personal good and blessing they want to share with us? Casey.
I have one from the Davises.
Okay.
And it is that they want to recognize that Rabbi made it another lap around the star.
Yeah, I have indeed. Thank you. Nothing like putting a can of horror on it. All right. Anybody else? Yes, Michelle. Was that your job? It's working. Fantastic. It's so stressful when we're not working. It really is. And I'm glad you've got something now. Who else? Anybody else in the room? Well, I think I've got two good and blessings for myself. First of all, today I spent some time teaching Lindsay Lev to pedal a bicycle. She's never really learned, and I didn't kill her. Yay! So that's a positive for the things that don't happen. And you didn't die. There we go. And the second is that the Moderna vaccine, of which I've been a trial subject, is now officially accepted by the FDA, which means I'm an honest test subject now, and I'm very excited about that. So, some good things coming, and good things happening, and bad things avoided, all for the good. So, let's get ourselves settled into Shabbat. We're going to start with a little Shabbat Nagoon, and just allow us to exhale and inhale and bring a little bit of Shabbat spirit into ourselves, and then we're going to light candles. So, let's begin with the Nagoon.
La 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 la
Well, Hanukkah is now just past, but its lessons stay with us, one of which is that in times of darkness, light and illumination brings us comfort. Our sages understood this, and this is why they directed us to add extra lights to our Sabbath evening celebrations. So it's my privilege tonight to invite up Helena Shapdossi, who is going to kindle the lights of Shabbat. We're going to be on page 1 if you have access to our prayer book.
In the beginning, when the Spirit of God hovered over the darkness, God's first creation was light. As we kindle these Shabbat lights, we attest to the majesty of God's work and rejoice in its beauty. Light is the symbol of divinity and creative goodness. It is the outward sign of that inner spark which God has granted each of us. In hope and with love, we now welcome Shabbat with light. Baruch atah Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu le'hadlik ner, le'hadlik ner shel Shabbat. Praised are you, Adonai, whose presence fills the world, who hallows us with mitzvot and inspires us to kindle Shabbat lights.
Amen.
May God bless us with Shabbat joy. May God bless us with Shabbat holiness. May God bless us with Shabbat peace. Amen.
Kasher Koach, my dear. We continue now with our Kabbalah Shabbat ceremony. Kabbalah Shabbat, an opening series of psalms that are recited before we begin our evening service, is a relatively new service in Jewish tradition. It's only about 500 years old. It was created by the Safed mystics for the purpose of preparing us by reciting those psalms that bring together the natural world and the notion of God's justice, which merge together on this day. And so we begin appropriately with Psalm 95, Lechuna Ranena.
Lehunera nera, lehunera nera, lehunera nera l'Adonai. Lehunera nera, lehunera nera, lehunera nera l'Adonai. Nadia, nadia letzuri shenu, ekama fana betoda. Nadia, nadia letzuri shenu, Bismiro nadia lo. Lehunera nera, lehunera nera, lehunera nera l'Adonai. Lehunera nera, lehunera nera, lehunera nera l'Adonai.
We're going to turn now to Psalm 97 on page 4, where we speak of God's rulership over the world, but we also speak of the special gift that God gives to the righteous. Psalm 97. Adonai reigns, let the land exalt and the many islands rejoice. Dense clouds surround God, and righteousness and justice are the foundation of God's throne. God's lightning illumines the world, and light is sown for the righteous. radiance for the upright of heart. O you who are righteous, rejoice in Adonai and acclaim God's holy name. We come now to Psalm 99. We think that in the ancient world, our ancestors imagined that the temple in Jerusalem was God's home on earth. At the same time, however, we can see that they understood that God is far beyond the scope of a mere structure of earth. And so it is in Psalm 99 where it speaks of the temple not as God's house, but as God's footstool, and speaks of Mount Zion as the base of God's very existence. So, Psalm 99, together, it is you who established equity, you who works righteous judgment in Jacob. Exalt Adonai our God and bow down towards God's footstool. God is holy. Exalt Adonai our God and bow down towards God's holy mountain, for Adonai our God is holy. And we continue now with Psalm 29, which carries forward the theme of God's voice in nature.
Avul Adonai b'nei Elim, Avul Adonai kavod va'os, Avul Adonai kevod shemo, Ishtahavu Adonai behadrat kodesh, Adonai oz lamo yitein, Adonai evarech et amo b'shalom.
And now, as we reach the culmination of Kabbalah Shabbat, we sing Lecha Dodi, which welcomes the Sabbath into our midst. I would like to designate Harold and Steve to be our greeters, our ushers to welcome in the Sabbath at the doorway. And we begin on page 7.
Lecha Dodi likrat kala, bnei Shabbat nekabela. 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 Shamor וזכור בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד, אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשם ולתפארת ולתהילה. להדודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. להדודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת להו ונלכה, כי היא מקור הברכה, מראש מקדם נשואה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. להדודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. להדודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך ומאורי, אורי, אורי, שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. להדודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. להדודי לקראת כלה, בני Shabbat Kabbalah. בואי ושלום העטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תהמוני ים סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה. להדודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה, להדודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה.
Sadiq katamar yifrach erez v'levanon yizgeh. And the righteous, they shall bloom like a palm. They shall thrive like a cedar in Lebanon. We're going to continue now with the Hatzi Kaddish in preparation for beginning our evening service. Oops, don't worry about it.
יתגדל ויתקדש מרבה,
Amen.
בעלמא יברהירותי וימליך מלכותי, והייכון וביומכון ובחיי כל בית ישראל, בגלה בגלה ובזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך, לעלם ולעלמי עלמיה, יתברך, יתברך וישתבח, ויתפאר וירומם וינשא, ויתהדר ויתהלל ויתהלל, שמי קדושה בריחו, לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירן בעלמה, ואמרו אמן.
Please rise for the Baruch.
לילה 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 לילה
That the sun will rise tomorrow is proverbial, but it's also a little miracle that assures us of the consistency of a world that God has created. And so we thank God with the prayer, Ma'ariv Aravim, the one who causes night to fall. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chokhmah potech sha'arim, u'vivuna mishaneh itim, u'machalif et hazmanim, u'msader et hakokavim, b'mishmerotehem barakia kirotzono, borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech, v'hoshech mipnei or, u'mavir yom u'mevi layla, Umavdil ben yom uven laila. Adonai tzvaot shemo. El chai v'kayam tamid yimloch aleinu le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai ha'ma'ariv aravim. Praised are you, Adonai, who makes the evening fall. And yet there are also extraordinarily gracious things that come into our lives, like abundant love, ahavat olam, Unending is your love for your people, the house of Israel, Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts you have taught us. Therefore, Adonai our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and rejoice in your Torah and mitzvot forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life and the length of our days. And then your love shall never depart from our hearts. Blessed is Adonai, who loves the people Israel. And now we acknowledge the oneness of all things by reciting the Shema.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem, Kevod Malchuto, Leolam Vaed.
You may be seated as we continue the V'ahavta part of the Shema.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך. ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ושוכבך ובקומך, ושרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך. וכתבתם על משושות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיהם. אני אדוני אלוהיהם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות להם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיהם.
And though we are conscious of a cold indifference that surrounds us, we are not merely shipwrecked sailors left to a lonely fate. We have confidence that God is there to rescue us and sustain us in the times of our deepest need. Emet ve'emunah. True and enduring, beloved and precious, awesome, good, and beautiful is this eternal teaching. The truth we hold to be forever certain. Adonai is our ruler, the rock of Jacob, shield of our salvation. Adonai, our God, you redeemed us from Egypt. You set us free from the house of bondage. For this, the people who felt your love sang songs of praise to you. Living God, high and exalted, mighty and awesome, who humbles the proud and raises the lowly, who frees the captive and redeems the oppressed, who is the answer to all who cry out. All praise to God Most High, the source of blessing. And like Moses and Israel, we sing this song of rejoicing, the Michamocha.
נורא תהילו תוסף אלה, נורא תהילו תוסף אלה. מלכות ההרה ובניה בוקע ים לפני משה, זה אליהו ואמרו, זה אליהו ואמרו.
And now we turn for a moment from our collective confidence to turning inward to think about our own anxieties and security. Hashkivenu, a prayer for night. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamidenu malkeinu l'chaim ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha. Grant that tonight we should lie down in peace, Adonai our God, and raise us up tomorrow, O Sovereign, to life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of your peace and guide us with your good counsel. For your name's sake, be our help. Shield us from hatred and plague. Keep us from war, famine, and anguish. Subdue our inclination to evil. O God, our guardian and helper, our gracious and merciful sovereign, give us refuge in the shadow of your wings. O guard our coming and our going, that always we have life and peace. We praise you, O God, whose sukkah of peace is spread over us, over all your people, Israel, and over Jerusalem. We come now to the next part of our service, the tefillah, our standing prayers given to us by the sages. Please rise.
Adonai, shefatatiftau fiai b'tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rahel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol, HaGibor VeHaNorah, El Elyon Gomel Hasadim Tovim, Vekonei HaKol, וזוכר הזהבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו ואהבה, מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן. ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, מחכה חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומציל אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו משני אחת, מי כמוך בגבורות, ומי דומה לה, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, למען אתה להדות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש.
Please be seated. We pause in the midst of the Amidah to acknowledge this day and to celebrate it, the Sabbath, God's special gift to the Jewish people. So tonight we're going to be singing Yismachu v'Malchutecha on the middle of page 21.
ישמחו במלכותיה, שומרי 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 שבת וקוראי עונג שבת. ישמחו במלכותיה, שומרי 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 שבת וקוראי עונג שבת. מקדשי שובי שבת, כולם ישבעו איתן ומטוב השבת. ישמחו במלכותיה שומרי 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 שבת וקוראי עונג שבת. ישמחו במלכותיה שומרי 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 שבת וקוראי עונג שבת. ובשביעי רצית בו וקדשו שבת. חמדת ימים אותו קראת שבת. ישמחו במלכותיה שומרי 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 שבת וקוראי עונג שבת. ישמחו במלכותיה שומרי 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 שבת וקוראי עונג שבת. זה למעשה בראשית שבת. זכר למעשה בראשית שבת. ישמחו במלכותיה שומרי 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 שבת וקוראי עונג שבת. ישמחו במלכותיה שומרי 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 שבת וקוראי עונג שבת.
And now with Reitzei, we ask that God accept our thoughts, our prayers, and our actions as acceptable offerings before him. Reitzei Adonai Eloheinu ba'amcha Yisrael, utefilatam ba'ahava tikabel. Adonai, show your favor towards your people and lovingly receive our prayers. May the worship of your people Israel always be acceptable to you, for you alone do we hold in reverence. And we take a moment for a little more thanksgiving, modim. We give thanks to you, Adonai, our God and God of our ancestors. You are the rock of our lives, the shield of our salvation for all generations. We thank you and we recite your praises. Let all the living affirm you and praise your name as the God of our salvation and help. Praised are you, Adonai. Goodness is your name. All praises to you. And then we finish out with one of the few petitions that we offer in Shabbat services. We ask for peace. Shalom Rav.
Shalom Rav al Israel amha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Israel amha tasim leolam. Ki ata hu melech adon lehol hashalom. Ki ata hu melech adon lehol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Israel amha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Israel amha tasim leolam. וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. תשים עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. ואמרו אמן.
Well, we just finished with Hanukkah. And of course, if you know anything about the story, you know the miracle of the oil. The oil that was only supposed to last one night and ended up lasting longer than anticipated. I like to call this a manageable miracle. Manageable miracles, I think, are very useful because big miracles have, I can't imagine anything but unintended consequences. The sun stopped in the middle of the sky, which would really mean the earth stopped spinning. Oh, the magnetic fields would go crazy. Our phones would stop working. Everything would be nuts. All right? Split the oceans. What about maritime commerce? The travel estimated arrival time of ships at sea would go out of control. I don't know, manna from heaven. What would that do to the economy? You know, and splitting the land of Israel from the Mediterranean to the Dead Sea, all that's going to result in is a very smelly Dead Sea and a lot of dead fish. So big miracles, not so much I'm excited about, but manageable miracles for sure. Miracles that you almost don't notice that they're happening. And you may not have noticed, but we've just had one. It turns out that as the first of the Pfizer vaccine has gone out, each little vial containing supposedly two doses, they are discovering they can get as many as 6 out of a single vial. That's a manageable miracle. And we like to joke about the modesty of miracles in our time. But you know what? It is wonderful when they happen. And as Hanukkah teaches us, we should bless our manageable miracles. What does it mean to bless? Those of us who are accustomed to doing it on a regular basis, before or after we eat, for example, may find it just that. It may fall into the habit of custom, something that we do kind of pro forma. I lift up food to my lips, however, and I pause. What kind of food is it? What is the appropriate blessing for that food? And then mumble it quietly to myself, or rather to the Holy One of Blessing, and I eat this little miracle that probably is something like that really great chocolate cake that they have at Tom Thumb. It is a miracle to encounter these little things. If asked, any rabbi, any Jew might explain that blessings are meant to help us pause and see the world around us and to detect the miracle that is just barely happening. Blessings are moments of gratitude to the Creator who made the world of miracles that we enjoy on a regular basis. Whether it be a slice of bread or a rainbow, there is a blessing to help one see it, truly to be in the moment and to thank God for that moment. Jews, it is said, are supposed to say 100 blessings a day. That's paying attention to the world. We learn from their blessings themselves the wording, how it is that the world is made, how we might see it, how we might enjoy it, how we might be grateful. And the most basic of all blessings is perhaps the motzi, the blessing over bread. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, who brings forth bread from the earth. Simple, yes? No, actually decidedly peculiar. Most blessings we say over things, especially food, make perfect and obvious sense. They describe the world we're encountering. Blessed are you, God, who is Borei Pri Hagafen, who creates the fruit of the tree, or the fruit of the vine, or Borei Pri Ha'etz, the one who creates the fruit of the tree. Or if you're not even sure what you're dealing with, maybe a little bit of Thai food, you say, Shehakol Nehiyeh Bidvaro, that you've made even this thing according to your will. But Hamotzi, the most inclusive of all blessings over food, when we bless over bread, all other foods are included. This prayer is literally not true. Who brings forth bread from the earth. God doesn't do that, in case you haven't noticed. God doesn't bring forth bread from the earth. Farmers plant seeds, tend them, water them, harvest them, barley, rye, what have you. Workers thresh the grains, grind them into flour. Cooks take that flour, they add water, yeast, except on Pesach, honey, and knead the dough. And we wait for it to rise and them to pound it down, and we let it rise again. And we fashion it into loaves, braid it with love for Shabbat, and it becomes a symbolic piece that we set aside, making it challah, and then we bless it. And only then does it become bread. And we say motzi. But God didn't actually make that bread. We did. This reminds us of another puzzlement in our blessings. The other blessing is part of Pesukei de Zimra we say on Shabbat, where we praise God for everything. And we say, you give them their food in due time, feeding every creature to its heart content. But really? This is just not quite the lived reality for all creatures. Life in general, but especially when you or I or loved ones are suffering, there is a food shortage or someone is ill, does not seem to correspond to the idea that God simply provides for all of our needs. As it turns out, our blessings are not so simple. What is true of food is also true of health. In a time of COVID, we wonder, is this God providing for my needs? Similarly, when our mood turns melancholy for months at a time, we struggle to bless God. Nor is it simple to adjust to having a child or family member at this time. We're all struggling, and other people struggle. We struggle to help them from floundering. As parents especially, we have a vision for our child of how their childhood should go. But now, much of that has been cast in doubt, at least for a while. Perhaps the motzi, however, can teach us about the blessing of health effectively in a fundamental way. It's still true that God gives us bread, even though human beings do much of the work to create it. The motzi reminds us to see God's wisdom, God's blessing, not just in the miracle of the fruit ready to eat, but also in every step that we are privileged to join together with God in making the bread. We thank God for the seeds. We are blessed to have sun and soil and water that helps those grains grow. And above all else, we are blessed to have the wisdom, or to have someone else have the wisdom to toil and make our bread. What about our thanks to those also who we don't know who work to put bread on our tables? They too are a blessing and a miracle because they are made in God's image and are part of those we need to appreciate what it takes to make a motzi. The blessing over bread, our most basic food, reminds us that God and human beings have to work together to make the stuff of life as well as the staff of life. In a time of COVID, the same applies. God does not make a vaccine, but the fundamental components, the processes, as well as the wisdom and the workers that allow us to make vaccine are there, waiting for us to uncover them and to utilize them. Here too, God and humans work together to make the stuff of life continue. And thus I can bless God who makes for me, perhaps provides for me, actually places before me all I need. Well, obviously not without help from the rest of you. Aside from needing one another to put food on our tables, we need each other to flourish in every dimension of our life. Our journeys can be easy or difficult, and at times we can feel mighty alone, lonely. We may struggle. We may feel as if God seems to have abandoned us. And yet, God provides for all we need. How can that be? I barely get through the day. There are those, in fact, who understand the blessing differently. Maybe it's not the God who provides all my needs, but it's the God who provides my needs and therefore creates the occasion to do God's work. That is to say, God created me and my needs. And thus it may well be that it is at our most vulnerable states, when we are sad, when we are ill, when we are needy, that God may be closest to us, seeing to our needs and providing for us through the hands of others. God today will not appear to us as Moshe with a burning bush or a great voice at Sinai, perhaps not even as Elijah in a still small voice addressing us directly, which is, after all, kind of hard to hear in the times of trouble. But rather, God is present and may be tending to our needs, not only in our bread, but in our care. The vaccines, first Pfizer, now Moderna, soon Oxford, these too will come and bless us. In our time of distress, in our time when we cry out, there is help coming. And I would say it comes from us and from God. It's not just the miracles we can so easily imagine that fall into the category of God as a superhero. It is countless miracles, often only semi-seen or unseen. If we can see the miracle in a loaf of bread, the wonder in the creation of a vaccine, we can begin to see that perhaps indeed God has given us the resources to cope with life as it is and meet our needs. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. All right, and for our officer tonight, we have the extraordinary Michelle Jim, our Vice President of Fundraising.
Good evening and Shabbat Shalom. Okay, so I just wanted to give a special thanks to our cantorials, Holois and Armenian. Thank you, Lindsay.
Actually, thank you for thanking Lindsay, but really what you want to do is
Okay. So our office is going to be closed December 21st through the 25th while Bob is on vacation. The office will also be closed Friday, January 1st for New Year's Day. Religious school is also closed for winter break and will not start until Sunday, January 10th. Movie Together, as you know, this year has not been a typical one. So here at CKA, we're doing our best to continue traditions safely and reasonably. And to that end, we still want to get members together for a movie on the 24th of December, where we can do Christmas buffet yet. We would like to see a movie together where food is available to purchase. The seating is limited to 20 people per theater. In order for us to know if this is an event that has interest and still be able to secure theaters as needed, we must have a response no later than midnight on December 21st. Based on the response at that time, we'll let everyone know if the event is happening for sure and whether we'll be able to secure the theaters. There are too many details to go over here, but you can find everything in the post on the website. So please make sure to let us know before December 21st if you're interested. We also have our blood drive coming up. We'll be holding a blood drive with Qatar Blood Care on January 16th, 2021, from noon to 4 p.m. here in the parking lot. In order to honor social distancing, you need to please make an appointment first. The link to sign up and the details are also on the website.
And then
I
we
will also
wanna
like
do
to,
the Mishabero?
yes, it's next page.
It's probably on the front page,
Okay. Okay, here it is. Okay, so I will also like to offer a Mishavera for those in need of healing. Here I have Harry Anthony, Anna Binder, Natalie Bovino, Jeffrey Cohen, David Cook, Lena Kramer, Gordon Ellison, Tammy Ferris, John Friedman, Russell Godman, Michelle Griffith, Jonathan Gray, Mel Gross, James Hart, Donald Hess, Ken Hirschman, Jody Hoffman, Jason Julian, Deb Kaufman, Alice Conant, Lauren Connick, Sandy Lesner, Stacy Levi, Pam McCoy, Judy Morisak, Don Neal, Heather Pally, Jenny Rosenberg, Adrian Sandler, and Mira Schussler. If anybody else has a name to add to the list, please let me know. Sarah Moore.
Jim Clark, Mike Nelson, Tom Holiday, Shirley Hayden, Edna Adams, Judy Sheff.
Lily Roberts, Sarah Jaffe, Carrie Barnes, Bill Barnes, Dylan Barnes, and Sherry and Bertie Lewin.
Those were the ones online? Okay. So if you turn to page 40 of your prayer book, Ms. Rivera is there.
משברה אבותינו בקור הברכה לאמותינו. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing. Let us say Amen. Mishebera imotenu bekor Abraha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
I just want to put an extra pitch in for our 24th and 25th movies. It sounds a little reckless, but we are limiting our rental space to 20 people only in an entire movie theater. So it's probably, if you decide to bring your family, that's you and 3 or 4 other families. So we hope you take advantage of that. We're going to try and see The Croods with our kids on the 24th. And then I'm encouraging our young people to join me and go see Wonder Woman 84 on Christmas Day. So I hope we can get some people to come join us. Now, I just want to mention one other manageable miracle, and that is blood transfusions. Amazing, amazing, you know. Things that we used to be regular source of death for human beings, anemia and hypovolemic shock, no longer threaten us in the way they once did. And having that blood allows us to do major surgery to open up the human body and fix the other things inside of us. Such a miracle. And we need you to contribute to our blood drive so that we can keep that miracle going. So I'm done with that now. We turn to page 82 for an Elenu. And I don't know, I think I'm going to ask Adam to come on up here and open the ark with me. No, Adam doesn't want to come up. He's going anyway because his father is nurturing him. All right. So ladies and gentlemen, we turn to page 82. Please rise for the Elenu. Oh, fathers. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, latech gedulah yotzer breishi, shelo asanum kloye haratzot, velo samanu mishpachot adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, ve'or aleinu kechol Adonai. Nahnu korim, u'mishtachvim u'modim, lifnei melech ma'arei hamachim, hakadosh baruch hu, shehu notei shamayim v'yoser haaretz, u'moshav yikaro b'shamayim ima'an, u'shkinatu zo, v'gol he'meromi, u'Eloheinu Eino, emet malkeinu efes ulato, kakatu b'torato, v'yadata hayom v'hashevota Ki Adonai hu Elohim, b'shamayim imam, ve'al haaretz nidachah Elon. Yasher koach, young man. Bayom hahu, Yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo echad. The leaves fall. Fall is from afar. They fall with slow and lingering descent, and in the night, the heavy earth too falls, out of the stars and into the solitude, and thus all must fall. This hand of mine must fall, and lo, the other. It is the law. But there is one who holds the falling infinitely softly in his hand, in her hands. We take time now to recall with love and gratitude the names of those individuals whom we have lost both recently and those who have died at this time in years past. We begin with Shloshim. Shiva, forgive me. We have no one officially listed with us for Shiva. Is there anyone who has a Shiva in their family among their loved ones this week? That's good. That's good news. For Shloshim, we're thinking of Nora Collins, the friend of Danielle Roseberry, Frank Cordova, the grandfather of Lauren Cordova, Judy Hurwitz, the sister of Joanne Barnes, Tom Kirkwood, the uncle of Meredith Neria, and Stanley Levy, the uncle of Eric Tell. Is there anyone else in Shloshim? Thank you. For our yard sites this week, we think of these individuals connected to our Kol Ami community: Claire Cohen, Joseph Ducar, Lois Friedman, Joseph Gadan, Alan David Marks, Marilyn Paget, Josie Teitelbaum, Stanley Shektis, forgive me if I mispronounce that, J. Arthur Schapp, and George Lee Weisbard. Just let me make sure, and that is it. Does anybody else have any yard site names to add? All right. We want to honor these people. We also want to show our sympathy and support for those who grieve for them by turning to page 85, and, as is our custom, rising together to recite Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, be'alma divrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uv'yomechon, uv'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, b'galal uv'izman kariv v'imru, amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevorach le'elam ulamei amaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitale v'yitalal shmei d'kudsham baruchu le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechemata damiran be'elma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu ve'el kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mroma hu yaseh shalom Aleinu ve'el kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. May the source of peace and peace to all who mourn and comfort all the bereaved among us. And let us say, amen. Please be seated. It just seemed to me that given that we've got our second COVID vaccine on the way, we need to greet it and welcome it. So I thought we should sing Siman Tov U'Mazel Tov for the arrival of this new blessing into our society and in our lives. So, Siman Tov U'Mazel Tov, and then we'll finish with Kiddush and Motzi.
All right, this really works best if people clap with me, so. 1, 2, ready, go. Siman Tov U'Mazel Tov U'Mazel Tov Siman Tov U'Mazel Tov U'Mazel Tov Siman Tov U'Mazel Tov U'Mazel Tov Siman Tov Yehei lanu Yehei lanu u'lechol Yisrael Yehei lanu u'lechol Yisrael Siman Tov U'Mazel Tov U'Mazel Tov Siman Tov U'Mazel Tov U'Mazel Tov Siman Tov U'Mazel Tov U'Mazel Tov Siman Tov Yehei lanu.
What good fortune, what a good sign. May it be so for all Israel and all people. And let us say, amen. All right, so now it's time for me to get Lindsay back up here, and she is going to lead us in Kiddush, and then I will do the Motzi.
Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pari hagafen. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho b'ahava uvratzon hinhilanu. Zikaron lemasei bereshit, ki hu yom tehillah lemikraei kodesh, zeher letziat Mitzrayim, ki banu baharta ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim b'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon hinhaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat. L'chaim.
L'chaim. So before we go on to our Motzi, I just want to point out that this is the inaugural debutante event of Samson being our producer tonight. He's doing it solo tonight. And you know, the first time that anyone does something, we have to say, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehekianu v'kiyimanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Praised are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who has blessed us, given us this life over here, and brought us to this season. Amen to that. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, we go on to thank God for the miracle of our daily sustenance. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I'm off with my tongues to distribute the bread